Welcome back to another episode of our Dinner Party podcast. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Keith.
We're the podcast that covers topics you can cover later, like at a dinner party.
Good place.
Let's get into it this week. We're talking about the Notre Dame-Ohio State game and the weird aftermath in the Notre Dame locker room.
Oh, you'll have to fill me in. I did not see anything about this.
So it was kind of subtly covered and probably more heavily on the Notre Dame side. As we know, Ohio State won the first ever college football playoff championship, 34-23 against the Fighting Irish. From USA Today, as we all know, football is an emotional game, and it seems Notre Dame players showed some of that in the locker room following the loss to Ohio State. USA Today sports reporter Dan Wolken shared on his X account some bizarre scenes, that's in quotes. In the Irish locker room, players were yelling at reporters and coaches were asking them not to ask certain questions. Wolken called it, quote, amateur hour. On 3's Jack Sobel also commented on the atmosphere in the Notre Dame locker room, saying players were distraught. Plenty of them were more than willing to talk to us, and those who wanted to did it with class. As with most things, there are always two sides to the coin, and in this case, it may have been best for the media to give players a few more moments before asking for their reactions to the game. So it sounds like maybe tempers were high and the emotion of defeat maybe got to a few people.
So they were in the locker room. Don't they normally, like, the team will go to their locker room, they do their thing, their little meeting, and then don't they, like, normally, like, go out to
so there is a press
area?
Right, there's a press conference room, but in some cases they do allow media in the locker room. So I feel like this, if you think about it, reminded me more of like an NFL game where they catch certain players and grab clips.
Yeah.
And then there probably was the formal like interview afterwards. I honestly don't know if that happens for the losing team. Obviously the winning team definitely got a formal interview session, but I don't really know the protocol for this, and maybe there just wasn't one ahead of the college football championship since it was the first one.
It seems like they're definitely, I don't know, I just don't feel like they should be in the locker room, like, right after that.
It seems super awkward. I think also
That's a team thing.
if you're a female reporter, I don't think I want to be in the locker room.
Oh, it's probably lots of stench in there.
A lot of stench.
Yeah.
A lot of body. I don't really want to see that.
Do you think that they, you know, go along with the thing of the Axe body spray? Like, you walk in and it just smells like Axe body spray.
It's just a wall of different Axe
You think
smells.
that the college teams do that too? Or is that just a high school?
Well, with the NIL, I think they have actually proper cologne now. Now, if you asked that question like 2 years ago, I would say all in on Axe body spray for sure. Now I think we get a mixture of like fancy colognes.
Yeah, I just, as I said, it was like, oh, they can afford it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Still a lot of smells. It smells like an Italian shower.
Probably.
Yeah. Where it's just like a mixture of stench and some sort of spicy scent.
Yeah.
I think this is also the questionable use of social media by media. I think oftentimes they're looking for that hook. They're looking for that angle. I've never personally heard of this guy, Dan Wolken. I'm sure, he's covered the Irish or I'm sure he is a verified member of the media, but it feels sort of unfair and a little bit irresponsible to say bizarre scenes. They're college kids. Not everyone's media trained. I don't know what he meant by yelling at reporters. I think it's actually probably normal for coaches to ask them not to ask certain questions. That's certainly a normal media practice to say, hey, we can talk about this. We're not talking about that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even whenever you play like video games and you create a character.
Yeah.
You have interview questions and you have like this coach in the game.
Really? Wait, what's the, on Madden?
Yeah, on Madden.
I'm not a video game person.
Media coach person.
You have a media coach person on Madden?
Yeah.
I need to play now and I only want to play that part.
Yeah.
Can you willingly choose to make it Mayhem? Can you choose to answer things ridiculously?
I think you can, yeah. But the thing is, you want to answer good. Because then you get bonus to your stats and stuff.
Oh, you get a higher. And
or
that's actually how you end up on the Jets team in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. By having those good Madden scores.
Exactly. That's all that matters. Do you think that they do draft by their Madden scores, don't they?
I think they do. I think the Jets do.
Their college scores.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one team. Who was it? It might have been the Jets or the Giants. It was the Jets or the Giants. There was a video of the GM and his little kid was in there, and the kid was like, "Hey, you
It's
should
the
draft."
Jets.
Yeah, he's like, "You should draft Jaden Daniels," and they didn't. And you can see how well that's going for them. Jaden Daniels
That's
is
rough.
still, as a rookie, going to play in the NFC championship game. Yeah.
It's also, I know we made our picks. Watching Detroit lose was surprising.
Yes.
I genuinely didn't see that coming. So
No.
Jaden Daniels, plenty more to come from that kid, but also impressive because Detroit felt like a machine that wasn't going to get stopped. They felt like they were on a roll. Like the Vikings loss, after they lost to Detroit, I was like, oh, this is not like Sam Darnold is starting to look like Sam Darnold and we're over.
Well,
We're
I didn't trust the Commanders yet because, rookie. And
some of their bigger games felt like it's a fluke Hail Mary, craziness. Like,
and that was to beat the Bears.
There's a saying, and it's better lucky than good.
That's true. That is a saying.
Yeah.
But back to the locker room thing. I mean, what did you expect? There that to be any emotion? They just lost the national championship.
Like, would you want your team to be overly stoic if they lost? I don't think that's the emotion because that's not what you've teed up out of them all year. I would assume you've amped them up, and I don't think you then turn it over to be quiet, be stoic, say nothing. I don't think that was probably the vibe at all.
No, and for a lot of those kids, well, most of them, they're not going to play in the NFL, so that was going to be the biggest game of their lives.
Absolutely.
And they lost, so it's going to be,
They had a hell of a run, though, because they lost, their first game to a no-name school, which was honestly amazing. Good for that school. Didn't lose another game, so they lost their first and their last game of the year. That's still really hard, but they had a great season overall. But that's just not what you're going to in that moment. In that moment, you just lost the biggest game of your life. You lost your Super Bowl.
Yeah. So what do you think of these people? Mostly it's the fans of teams who didn't make the playoffs, but who are upset because the two teams playing for the championship didn't win their conference.
Right.
Also, Notre Dame isn't in one, so
right.
Yeah, they can't win. But yeah, some of these teams are just upset, or the fans were upset that you got these teams who lost to unranked teams,
right?
And they're playing in the national championship, and they didn't even win their own conference. And it's like, well, every other sport has a big playoff thing too,
right?
College football has always been messed up, in my opinion,
right?
I think this is better. I think they're getting in the right direction.
I agree. Also, were the top two teams, the teams that played in their conference championships, because I guess you could technically start, if we zoomed out a layer deeper for college football, the championship games could be the first game of their playoffs. It would be more like NFL if they did that.
Yeah.
But were both teams in each situation in the college football playoffs? I don't think so. So I don't think it would work as is.
Yeah, probably. I'm trying to think who played the Big Ten game.
Texas, Georgia
it was Penn State, right? Penn State, Oregon. So then let's say this. I don't know if it's possible, but if you keep adding more teams to conferences, it could be. What if you have 3 teams that are undefeated?
Right. Well,
then they're going to do what? Point difference? That's stupid.
We already also know, now I'm thinking of it because I'm like, well, Tennessee was not in their, the SEC conference championship game.
Oh, they were? Who was it? Texas and
Georgia, right?
That sounds probably right.
And so then we added in different teams, so it's just not set up like that.
And Tennessee had a high rank, right?
Yeah, because they were in the college football playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably just some work to be done there. It's not that this wasn't a good, I think it's kind of interesting that two teams that weren't in their, or didn't win their, their conference title ended up going. I also love that it was just 2 schools from the Midwest. We could have just had that thing in Indianapolis and called it a day.
Why didn't we?
Well, it was cold as hell here, so that's a good reason not to.
Yeah.
It was cold in Georgia too, but definitely colder here.
Yeah, Georgia defeated Texas.
Yeah, so I don't know. It just wasn't set up like that.
Yeah. Oh no, I think that they're going in the right direction. I did see something that it said that they may tweak it.
Yeah.
But
I think we'll see many tweaks in years to come.
They'll get it. It's the first year.
They'll get it. And so will Notre Dame. They'll bounce back. They're fine. Not worried.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really follow college football a whole lot. Is Riley Leonard, was that his last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so. I don't know if he's committed to the NFL draft yet, but we'll see. More to come.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of our Dinner Party podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye.